Hello, everyone. This is Talk by Tech, and we've got an interesting little not surprise here. Anyone that knows anything about WWE, or more importantly, Vince McMahon, knows that this is something he has been doing for the last 30 years, give or take. We got this article here from BloombergLaw.com. Vince McMahon, WWE, sued by ex-writer over racist scenes and scripts. Not a surprise. The article basically goes over to discuss that the allegations of discrimination and retaliation are against a black female writer for objecting to offensively racist and stereotypical jargon. It's noted there, as in the scripts of black wrestlers, including Bianca Belair and Apollo Crews, according to the new lawsuit. It was filed in court, and this is not a surprise for anyone that is a wrestling fan. As most people know, the board members of the WWE removed Vince. Paul Levesque, also known as Triple H, was then put in charge of a lot of WWE. Overall, the performance of the programming, I'm not going to say if it was getting better or worse, but the fan reaction was improving. Viewership was going up. There was more interest in the product, so that was definitely a good thing. It was believed that Vince went home at that point and was working on background wheel and deal. Basically, what he did was he sold the company, quote unquote, but he really didn't. He sold it, and then he reinstated himself to the WWE board of directors in January. So it's facing ongoing litigation from a rape and sexual assault of employees that previously existed. The company recently announced its plan to merge with UFC, which would make a $21.4 billion enterprise. Dana White has noted recently that, great, Vince McMahon is now my boss. And he's not a big Vince McMahon fan. I mean, they've worked together and whatnot, but he doesn't seem to be a fan of Vince. The interesting parts here, though, are some of the allegations being made, and it is nothing that any fan is not aware of. Which is kind of funny, because anyone that watches wrestling knows it's a parody. And some of them get pretty interesting. Some people will say, well, the talent chooses to do it. For a very long time, up until AEW, basically from the time WCW went bankrupt and Vince bought WCW back in 2001, there was nowhere else to go if you really wanted to make a living. You could have done the indie scene, yes, but early on there was no indie scene. Later on, we did get more of an indie scene, which was rather interesting. Very positive and very good, but for a lot of guys and a lot of people that know pro wrestling, still to this day, the top, the best of the best is WWE. So would you really want to work yourself to a point where you finally get there and then say no to stuff, whether it's right or wrong? That's the sad reality of what these pro wrestlers / superstars, whichever camp the individual finds themselves in, is stuck to deal with. So a lot of times they would just say, yeah, sure, I'll do it, and do it. And sometimes they really wouldn't care. Sometimes they'd see the humor in it and go, whatever. And they would just have fun with it. But you know, things were stated. So she was alleging subjects to a number of racist pitches after complaining on a Slack thread that Vince McMahon and his daughter, Stephanie McMahon, were included on. Other writers suggested a black male wrestler should dress in drag, only when a white writer noted that doing so could perpetrate harmful stereotypes that would offend viewers, was the pitch scrapped, she had noted. It'd be really hard to prove if that did or didn't happen. Hopefully she had the wherewithal to pull out her cell phone and snap a photo of it. If it was on her cell phone, hopefully she used another cell phone to snap the photo. So we'll see. But then on another occasion, a writer allegedly posted that a Muslim wrestler secretly in a script that was going to be behind the 9/11 attacks. Mustafa Ali, I believe the guy's name was. He wasn't even Middle Eastern. He portrayed a Middle Eastern, though, and like right around, if not the same day as like the 9/11 attacks, they were going to use hooded men, supposedly being terrorists, to come in and take out the Undertaker. That was well known because the character was basically completely dropped after 9/11 happened, and the storyline obviously was completely scrapped. Really bad because the wrestler behind that character was actually decent. Could have had a really solid career, but that pretty much ended his career. So, but that was back around 9/11. So, we're talking back in 2001. So a lot of these things are bad. A lot of this stuff happens. It's not a surprise. It's interesting seeing someone bring it up and bring it to a court level because they were discriminated against or let go unjustly. As a wrestling fan, I find it a problem having all these writers. I don't really see very many real wrestling stories anymore, and the only ones I really seem to see are the ones that tend to have someone like a Paul Heyman involved, someone that knows wrestling, someone that can tell like a solid wrestling story. Love it or hate it, but the Roman Reigns story has gone on for a very long time, and it never gets go away heat, which is the thing. So that's rather interesting. You never see the Roman Reigns story with like X-Pac heat. They tried and failed to make him a favorite, but they wanted everyone to love him, but make him the bad guy, and it rolls beautifully. And with someone like Paul Heyman there, it seems to have become very solid, and the Bloodline storyline is great. Now, there's a lot of reports on that one about very little writer involvement with it, which is good. We see what happens when a knowledgeable wrestling mind applies wrestling logic to this stuff. So it's rather interesting. But again, whatever your take is on writers or not, it'll be interesting to see where this story goes and what happens from here. All right. Have a good one.